guys, okay, let's move on to Chapter 18 Theater. Happily, the jitney accumulator areas were clearly marked on the station map. It took less than 5 minutes for Derek to walk to the nearest one and return with one of the nimble little electric carts. The version he had chosen had a single driver's seat in back over the solo wheel, and an open passenger cab slung between the other wheels in front. Woolruff curled up on the floor of the passenger cab under a white hospital robe. Catherine sat in one of the two seats, her legs further helping to conceal the alien, and Derek took the controls. For Woolruff to find her place in her scent map, they were forced to backtrack into the dark sections. From there it was relatively simple. Up 3 levels, north 2 subsections, up another level, and then west 5 blocks into a large plaza. When Woolruff warned them they were nearing their destination, Derek slowed the vehicle to a moderate walking pace. A moment later, the alien stole a peek over the edge of the cab, then jabbed a fat finger in the direction of the circular building at the center of the plaza. "In there? Are you sure?" Derek hissed. "Yes, Derek. That's where the jewel is." The light worm sign outside the main entrance said, "Station Operations Center. Restricted." And robots were everywhere. The center itself was a single room, 20 meters in diameter, and encircled with windows looking out on the plaza. "Great, just great," Derek grumbled, driving slowly across the plaza at an oblique angle. "How are we going to get in there? We can't sneak up." "How about the front door?" Catherine said, twisting around to look at him. "Maybe they'll let you in." Derek regarded her dubiously. "Go ahead. It's worth a try." "I still don't understand," Woolruff chimed in. "Aren't the robots our servants?" Before answering, Derek drove the jitney a short distance down a connecting corridor, then pulled to one side and stopped. "I don't know about this," he said to Catherine. "Maybe they're just setting us up, like Varan's ship. If we try to get in there, if we show any interest in the thing at all, maybe that's just going to bring them down on our necks like a ton of slag." "You want to just leave it with them? After all we've gone through because of it?" "When we were prisoners on the ship, I thought it was important to get the thing away from the aliens and back in human hands. Well, that's where it is. Jacobson made it clear they're willing to let us walk away and leave this mess to them. Maybe that's what we ought to do." "Don't you have any curiosity?" she demanded. "Don't you want to know what this thing has all been about?" "Sure, I've got curiosity. I've also got problems of my own to sort out. I don't see where that thing is going to help any." "What's happened to your nerve?" she said. "Look, these are the same people that stole our spacecraft, spirited away my robot, and then tried to tell us you should be grateful that they're sending us away as paupers instead of criminals. I'm not about to let them get away with it." "Don't you understand?" Derek shouted angrily. "You think we're going to be able to just walk in there, put it under our arm, and say, 'Thanks for looking after it'? This thing came off a heavily armed alien ship. They don't know about that," Catherine pointed out. "They never saw Aramis, or even Woolruff." "All right," Derek said tiredly. "Maybe you're right. If they did think it was an alien ship, they probably wouldn't let us go. But these people aren't playing. They wanted the ship, and they took it. They wanted the robot, and they took it. They wanted the jewel, and they have it. We're not going to be able to take it back. We won't even get in the door. Maybe their orders weren't that specific. I'd have made 'em so. You didn't give 'em. Go on, try. What's the point? Woolruff's right. The key is just trouble for everyone." Catherine sighed. "If you want something done." And before Derek could stop her, she climbed out the jitney and headed back to the plaza on foot. In less than 10 minutes, Catherine was clambering back into her seat. "They let me in. Even gave me a little tour," she said breezily. "Very accommodating." "I figured that out when you weren't back in 2 minutes. What about the key?" "It's there all right, sitting out in plain sight. What idiots!" Derek eased the jitney into motion down the corridor, mulling over Catherine's news. "Not really. Describe what you saw." "It's a big semicircular room with glass all around, except for the offices at the back. There are 5 robots at workstations, including Anazon. Then there's 2 more near the center of the room doing nothing but sitting facing each other with the artifact on the table between them. There's some sort of funny emblem on the shoulder of these robots. A blue F and a double gold circle. Derek groaned. Falk X50s. Does that mean something? It means trouble. They have super fast reflexes. If a bomb went off 5 meters in the opposite direction, they might be distracted long enough for you to get your hands on the key, but you'd never get out of the room with it. If we're gonna get it back, we're gonna have to have some way to neutralize 7 robots at once. And I don't know any. Could you explain to me why it's out in plain sight? Could it be a copy, a fake? Maybe you're right about the trap. No, Tarek said with a shake of his head. I'd guess the robots were probably ordered to watch it constantly, in principle if not in so many words. If you put it in a vault and no one opens the vault, it isn't going to vanish into the ozone. No, Dirk agreed, but that understanding requires a fairly advanced and rather subtle mental function called object permanence. Robots are strongly biased toward the concrete and away from the inferred. If they lock something away out of sight, they don't really know it's there except when they check on it. That's illogical. No human would think that way. Some would, Derek assented, but you're right, it's not logical. So why did the roboticists let that happen? No engineering system is perfect, Derek said with a shrug. This one is just one of those little things that doesn't always behave the way you wish it would. A robot's uncertainty about whether the way you wish it The robot's uncertainty about whether it's satisfactorily fulfilling its orders can drive it into an anxiety state, specifically when they develop an elevated K-integral in the W14 level. So they begin checking on the thing they're guarding more and more often at shorter and shorter intervals. And eventually it ends up sitting on the table next to them, Catherine said. Right. Derek fell into a thoughtful silence, then caught himself. Damn it all, you've got me trying to figure out how to get to it. See, I knew you didn't want to let them have it, Catherine said with a bemused smile. Any ideas? Not yet. A moment later he added, except that no matter how carefully worded and strongly impressed their orders to protect the key are, they are only covered by the second law. Catherine was mute for a time, as Derek drove aimlessly through the streets, bounding the operations block. Following orders is second law, she said finally. That's what I just said. What if Woodruff and I gave him a first law reason to disregard them? Woodruff peeked out from under the robot the mention of her name, and looked hopefully at Derek. That's the way to go, obviously, Derek said. But how? I've got some ideas. A little robot theater, shall we say. Do you think you can be convincing? Derek asked skeptically. I'd rather try than not, she said. Let's not stop ourselves. Let's make them stop us. Woodruff, he asked. Do you want to try? Whatever you want, Derek. The burden was back on him, whether he wanted it or not. All right then, Derek said slowly. Let's go somewhere more private and talk it through. Peering down the corridor into the plaza, Derek shook his head. This will never work, he whispered. It's worked so far, hasn't it? Derek had to admit that it had. The first problem had been to eliminate most of the robot traffic in the plaza. They considered half a dozen ideas for accomplishing that, from setting up hall blocks of robot monitors to trying to draw them away with invented errands somewhere else in the station. In the end, they settled for a whisper campaign, a simple variation on the unkind children's game. Billy is a cootie, pass it on. Derek had stopped a robot at random just outside the operations block and spoken briefly to it. Robot, management has ordered that there be a test of station emergency communications in the subsection. Your instructions are as follows. First, you're not to discuss the test or your part in it over the command link. Second, you're not to enter or remain in subsection 100 at any time between 1200 hours and 1400 hours today. Third, you're to relay these orders to the next robot that you see. The instructions were innocuous enough that the robot did not challenge them. Like a runaway infection, the whisper had raced through the body of the station staff. Within half an hour, the traffic in the plaza had thinned dramatically. Within the hour, the plaza was deserted, and several robots had even left the operations center. 3 robots remained. From where he was crouching beside the jitney, Derek could see them inside the operations center, the 2X50s guarding the artifact, and Anson darting from one workstation to the next, trying to oversee critical operations. Their particular responsibilities were too strongly impressed on them for Derek's little trick to pull them away. "It'll work," Catherine prodded. "Go on, we'll do our part. Just make sure you do yours." Derek Swallowing hard, Derek nodded and started off down the corridor. He crossed the empty plaza and climbed the single step up into the operations center. None of the robots took any notice of him. "Amazon." "Yes, Derek?" "I've decided not to wait for the Nexon shuttle. I want to charter a ship to come and get me to take me to Aurora. Tell me the procedure I should follow." Without ever turning away from the console, the robot began to answer. "There are 7 ships of Nexonian registry, licensed for Auroran space and available for hire. You may contact any of their owners by hyperwave." Suddenly the peace of the plaza was broken by the roaring sound of a jitney in high gear. A moment later the vehicle burst out of one of the connecting corridors, Catherine at the controls. Pursuing close behind was Woolruff, running with an easy loping gait that used all 4 of her limbs. Halfway across the plaza, Woolruff got close enough to reach out and catch Catherine from the arm from behind. The jitney veered suddenly, breaking the alien's grip. But the veer turned into a skid that ended with the jitney sliding sideways with a jolt into the rock-formed base of the tree planter. In a moment, Woolruff caught up and pounced on Catherine. The air was filled with her convincingly terrified cries of, "It's killing me!" and the alien's ominous growls. When the jitney veered, Amazon had started toward the exit and one of the X-50s began to rise. But when the guard robot saw Amazon responding, it sat back down again. Derek knew immediately that meant the guard's instructions were so strongly worded that the expectation that Amazon would handle the first law situation relieved them of responsibility. Only if Amazon failed would they act. The moment was slipping away quickly. "Robots, help that woman!" Derek said sharply, stepping forward. "She's being harmed. She may be killed." One of the X-50s stirred slightly. "Amazon will protect her. The creature attacking her is fast and strong. Amazon will not be able to protect her from injury. Go, help her, now." First one, then the other guard rose and took a halting step or two toward the exit. Then they hesitated, the conflicting post-ironic potentials having reached a new equilibrium. Amazon would reach Catherine and Woolruff in a few more strides, and the stunt would be over, a failure. Just then, Catherine loosed a blood-chilling cry that even Derek thought real, and the guard robots started forward again. Derek waited no longer. Snatching the artifact up from the table, he turned and ran the other way, vaulting over a console and out through the window. His heart pounding, Derek fled the plaza and down an empty corridor. He heard the jitney motors whine, but he did not look back. He could not afford to worry about Catherine and Woolruff. He thought he heard the metronome-like running steps of a robot, but did not look back. Even if he was being chased, knowing it could not make his legs pump faster. All he wanted was to reach the dark sections unmolested. All he could think of were the escape route and the rendezvous he had chosen. He ran until his chest ached and his legs were iron, until each breath was pain, until darkness swallowed him and hid him from those who wanted to find him. And that is the end of chapter 18. Ta-da! I know this is a short video, but the next chapter is a little bit long, so I'm going to save that for next time. And we only have 3 more chapters left, so 19, 20, and 21. 21 is also a short chapter, but 19 and 21 are both pretty long chapters, so I'm going to make those into 3 separate episodes. Thanks for watching!